Hello, Les. I'm at it again, and I want you to understand that I'm doing this for us both, for you and for me, because as I said, you're my oldest daughter and my tennis daughter, and you expressed an interest in this, and I've had a real interest in trying to tell a few stories about my tennis and about my business life. And I don't know whether I'll ever get around to talking about my business life. And I've also enjoyed, our tennis together. And so this is the kind of things that I've been thinking about. So I want feedback from you because I have a lot of different ways I can go. For instance, one of the things I want to do is talk about the changes in tennis that I've observed and how criminally tennis has been taught. I never saw a sport which was taught worse than tennis. Really, I mean, for a sport that's been around since the 1800s, I mean, tennis teaching has been a joke and remains so today. Though it's slightly improved. But anyway, so I want to talk about what I've seen in the changes in tennis and the effect it's had on the game we watch and play. And I think that, to me, that's very interesting, but I got to sprinkle it with stories that I think you'll like. So I thought today I would talk about what I thought was my first really important tennis match. Important to me, tennis match. I don't know whether you know that I always considered myself a golfer. I cannot believe that when I was a teenager at Echo Lake, I considered myself a golfer. I had a controlled slice. I had horrible form. I was one of these kids who didn't think he needed a lesson because I could hit a ball, while the others couldn't, and they had to take lessons so they could even hit a ball. But I could hit a ball, so I didn't need lessons. So I'm a golfer, and I had a controlled slice, which was a joke. In retrospect, a joke. But I could break 50 for 9 holes. So I'm a golfer. And I saw some tennis at Echo Lake. Echo Lake had one clay court and one hard court, and I only saw my first girlfriend's older brothers play tennis once, and they could play, and I was surprised at how good it looked. But that's the only tennis I ever saw. If you asked me to play tennis, I had no backhand. I couldn't hit the ball at all. I would run at the ball with a forehand. I would just run at the ball. But I was a golfer, so I didn't care about tennis. And then when I married your mother, I continued as a golfer. And when I was at Riverton, I'm a golfer. And I got to be a pretty good one finally at the end. I actually learned something about it. And but then when I became self-employed, which was when I moved to Washington, D.C., and I did nothing but work for like 7 years. And I belonged to Kenwood Country Club for like 7 years before I went out and did anything there. I don't even think I ate dinner there, even. And but it was when I could finally get out and play. Your mother said, "David, you don't have a handicap at golf. You don't have no handicap. You haven't played golf in what amounts to 7 years, and you don't know any golfers. So how are you going to play golf? Why don't you learn to play tennis with me? I'll treat you to 2 tennis lessons or 3 tennis lessons." And that's how I got started playing tennis. Your mother said, "I'll treat you to 3 tennis lessons. Come on out and play tennis with me. I'm playing at Kenwood," which which I knew. And so I went out and I picked, I told the coach that I only wanted backhand lessons because I couldn't hit a backhand at all. I never got a serving or a forehand lesson, then I got a backhand lessons. And then I started to play tennis. When you can't play tennis, who do you play tennis with? And that's an ordeal. But I finally got a guy to play with me, and then I got a couple more guys who would play with me. And then, of course, I entered every tournament that they had. Didn't make any difference. It was a tournament, I entered it. And I lost in the first round all the time, and then pretty soon I could beat a few people. And then I became known to the better players as a real avid tennis player. And I got some tutoring from good players, yeah. They would help me and hit with me and suggest things for me to do and suggest who I should be playing. So when I was about 49 or 50, I got to play in my first sanctioned USTA MATA tournament, Mid-Atlantic tennis tournament. And I won't go into that. It was very, very interesting, very exciting. I lost in 3 sets. I never lost to that guy again. I lost in the first round in 3 sets to a fairly experienced player, a very experienced player, and a fairly good one. And as I say, yeah, I never lost to him again. And that started me off. But I was playing in obscurity. When I was playing in these USTA age group tennis tournaments, it was unknown to the people at Kenwood, unknown. And so my first match that really mattered to me in a huge way, and it was huge, it mattered to me, was when I played in the 60s. I had turned 60, and the Kenwood had a 60s champion, and had a 60s tournament, and the Kenwood senior champion was Ray Tuttle, and Ray Tuttle was a mentor of mine. He was 2 years older than me, and he had been Kenwood senior champion for 2 years, but he was a doubles player. He never played singles, but he was so good that he could win he came out once a year and won the Kenwood 60 singles championship. And so here I am in the 60s, and I reached the final, and of course there's Ray Tuttle. And tennis was extremely popular in those days. And believe it or not, for the 60s championship, I must have had 75 people watching. I had the whole deck was covered, the whole place was jammed with people who Kenwood members who wanted to see this upstart, David Croyder, play the great Ray Tuttle. I mean, Ray Tuttle had been doubles champion of the club at all ages, and he was a well-known, skilled player. And I heard people making remarks, "Oh, Croyder has no chance at all, none. He can't possibly beat this guy." And so it was a huge match to me. It was much bigger than any of the matches that I've been playing in MATA. And but I felt I could win. I really felt I could win because I said to myself, Ray Tuttle doesn't play singles, and he's not going to be able to keep me off his backhand. He has a good serve and super forehand, but he has a backhand designed for doubles, and he hasn't been playing singles with that backhand, and he's not going to be able to hit it deep enough and hard enough to keep me off him. and I got a good chance. And you know what? I came out and I beat him 6-0, 6-1. 6-0, 6-1. I destroyed him. It went just the way I thought. And that was my first big tennis victory in my own mind. So I had taken up tennis when I was about 43. And here I have my first really big victory in my own mind when I'm 60. And I thought you might like that story. But you know, in retrospect, I was already the #1 player in the state of Maryland in the 55s. Nobody at Kenwood knew that. I had won the Maryland State. It was the biggest pro I was ever in. I was in the 65 pro tournament in the Maryland outdoors clay courts at 55s, and I won that tournament, and that vaulted me to #1 in the state of Maryland. So, but I wasn't. It wasn't anywhere near as important to me as at Kenwood, where I was living, you might say. Victory when I was 60. So that's the stories for now, and maybe next time I'll have a story to include you again, but maybe I'll conduct my story on the changes in tennis, which I've seen, and the pathetic coaching that's been in tennis all these years. Okay, for now, bye.